Ram is only good because Ravana is there. So these negative personality plays an instrumental role in defining good personalities. So you people have learned about them. Let's move to the topic nature, scope, and sources of ethics. But before starting any discussion on this topic, I want you people to ponder upon this question that how many of you really think that you need coaching for this paper? I mean, the answer to this question can be both yes and no. And it completely depends upon the way students are approaching this paper. And since you people are already watching this class, the no option has become irrelevant. It is out of context now. See, I don't have any problem with those who say yes. In fact, I will welcome them in great numbers. But there is a problem with this yes. There is a danger with this yes that all of you must guard yourself from. And this is to see this paper as a conventional body of knowledge or some lectures that are transferable on exam answer sheet. Let me further clarify my point. Now see, UPSC has given a codified syllabus for this paper. Like in the notification, different units are mentioned: aptitude, attitude, emotional intelligence, moral philosophy, ethics in administration. Certain units are there and then subtopics are mentioned under these units. It's a similar kind of approach that you guys have seen in your schools and colleges also, where syllabus-based method is there. It is in contrast to the Gurukul method, where things are very abstract. I mean, there was no syllabus in our earlier Gurukuls. Students, they used to wander here and there, they used to observe the world around them, and then on that basis, they used to ask questions from their teachers, and the teachers used to answer them. But in UPSC, we have this syllabus-based approach. Now, when you have this kind of syllabus with you, how exactly you prepare for such a syllabus? What you guys will do that you will start looking for some standard books. Like in different subjects, like in history, we have this spectrum, we have NCERTs. For polity, people usually refer to Lakshmikant. So some standard books are there. But in ethics, it is more about thinking and brainstorming rather than just memorizing conventional knowledge. In ethics, you are not going to get these standardized books. Are you getting my point? I mean, students, they will start looking for some magazines, some periodicals, maybe some class notes of some teacher. But if you completely base your preparation on these things, then things are not going to happen for you. In fact, you have to apply your own brain. You have to develop wisdom if you want to score good marks in this paper. That is why it is clearly said, as you can see in this slide also, that this paper is about observation, brainstorming, and application. It's a three-step process basically. First of all, you observe the world around you. Then you will do the brainstorming part. And finally, your application. In Hindi, we call it darshan. Like, what do we call philosophy in Hindi? We call it darshan shastra. Because the people, he's a darshanik, a philosopher is a darshanik. So he do observe the people, the society around him. After darshan, the next thing would be dhyan. And then finally, you have to do karma, the nishkam karma, which is given in Bhagavad Gita also. In fact, most of the Indian philosophy, they talk about karma itself. So it is the karma on which you have to focus upon. This paper is more about wisdom rather than knowledge. For other three GS paper, you need knowledge. But for this paper, you need wisdom. I hope you understand the difference. Like there's a saying that knowledge is knowing that Hitler killed more than 6 million Jews. But wisdom is knowing that how Hitler was able to convince millions of Germans that it is the right thing to do. Like knowledge will tell you that breaking promises is bad. Alright, like Bhishma Pitama in Mahabharata, he made a promise to his father, to his mother Satyavati, that I will never take up the throne of Hastinapur, I will always be its loyal servant. But what is wisdom? Wisdom is not making promises, because you know that anything can happen in future. You do not have complete knowledge about all the situations which may arise in future. Are you understanding? So making promises, making absolute statements in itself can be wrong for you in some situations. Sometimes the context has to be taken into account. So wisdom is different. And for this paper, you need wisdom. When it comes to knowledge, you already have so much knowledge with you. All right. And one more thing I would like to say is that this paper is an aptitude test rather than an achievement test. Achievement tests are what? The tests that you have given in your schools and colleges. In achievement test, first of all, proper instructions are given to you, and then based on that, a test is taken. But aptitude test tends to measure what you can do in future. It tries to measure your capacities, and that is why these tests are highly analytical and abstract. This is a part of our syllabus also. In Unit 3, I will discuss this idea in detail. But the central thing is that this paper is an aptitude test, it's not an achievement test. Again, I would say that is why you need more knowledge, more wisdom rather than knowledge. In fact, as I said, that you already have so much knowledge from your other 3 GS papers. Like as you can see in this slide, and with this we also discussed the sources of this paper, the knowledge that you get from 3 GS papers, like history. Now you guys have learned so many things in your history. In fact, so many great personalities are there like Mahatma Gandhi, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Vivekanand. In fact, even Hitler in wrong sense. Even these negative personalities like Duryodhana, Ravana, Hitler, even they play an important role in defining what the good thing is. I mean, you should know now, you have something to compare. Ram is only good because Ravana is there. So these negative personality plays an instrumental role in defining good personalities. So you people have learned about them. Now let me give you one example. Like Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Now all of you know that he has fought against the evil practice of sati. Now why he was so much against this practice of sati? I mean, other personalities were also there at that time. But why Raja Ram Mohan Roy? Because he saw his sister-in-law commit sati in front of his eyes. And because of his nature of empathy, because of his compassion towards women, towards his sister-in-law, he was moved by this thing and he took the pledge that I will remove this evil from the society. So this one incident can also be taken as an example for the value of empathy. Empathy means feeling the same pain, same suffering which the other person is going through. Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi. Now, you people must have read about non-cooperation movement. Okay. Now, you know that this movement, when started by Gandhiji in 1920, was going on really well. In fact, Gandhiji himself claimed that if this movement goes for one more year, India will get its dominion status. But yet, it was suspended abruptly by Mahatma Gandhi. Why? Because of the Chauri Chaura incident. In Chauri Chaura incident, what happened? Violence was there. Now, Gandhiji always believes in right means over wrong ends. He always said that no right end can be achieved through wrong means. Now, in this particular case, Right end was there, freedom for India. But the mean through which we want to achieve this freedom of India was wrong. Gandhiji always wanted to maintain this through non-violence, through truthfulness, through other virtues. And that is why he suspended non-cooperation movement because of violence in Chauri Chaura. Are you understanding this thing? So he always gave primacy of means over ends. Now, taking this example as part of this question which was asked in 2018. This question was asked that means values are more important or the end values. Now, by taking this example of Mahatma Gandhi, you can say means values are more important. By taking example of Yudhishthira from Mahabharata, you can say that end value is more important. Yudhishthira lied to Dronacharya that his son Ashwathama has died. So he took a wrong mean to achieve the right end of establishing dharma in the society to win the war. But was he correct? In that context, he was correct. So deciding between means and end in itself is a very contextual, is a very relative process. So if this type of question comes, you will write about these relative things only. But you are giving this exam for being a civil servant. And for civil servant, which values are more important, means or ends? It is the means values. Why? Because the civil servant has the role of implementing the policies. The politician is more associated with the end values. He will decide the objectives, the goals. But the civil servant will decide how he is going to achieve that goal. Are you getting my point? So for civil servant, means values have a little edge over end values. And it is also part of our Hindu philosophy. In Bhagavad Gita also Nishkam Karma idea is given. Even Immanuel Kant has come up with a deontological approach that duties are more important. We don't know what ends can be because they lie in future. So based on all these ideas, you can answer this question that whether means values are more important or end values are important. Similarly, one more question was asked in 2014. That which personality inspires you the most? Now, these personalities again you can take from your history knowledge. You have learned about Swami Vivekananda, you have learned about Mahatma Gandhi, about Abdul Kalam ji. So many personalities are there, so you can pick any one of them. In fact, your knowledge should not only be restricted to what you have learned in the class, but it should also go beyond that and what you have learned in life, what you have learned from books and movies. Like Ramayana was there on televisions last year during the lockdown. Okay, so you can learn from Ramayana. Any character from there also you can pick up as a personality which inspires you the most. Like one of my student in 2014, he wrote this answer that it is Lord Krishna. His personality inspires me the most. And then he wrote about Nishkam Karma also. And apparently he scored very good marks. In fact, highest marks that year, around 138. Similarly, this question, two rulers who have benefited society and two who have harmed it. Who you can write as an example. Like most of the people, they look for the current context of what they have read during the time of history, during World War II, World War I. But you can also give example of Ravan and Ram over here. How Ravana, how his greed, how his lust led him to attach to Sita and how it led to the destruction of whole Lanka. Duryodhana's envy, his anger led to the destruction of whole Hastinapur. Hitler's idea, Hitler's conviction that Jews are inferior race and they must be executed led to the destruction of Germany. So these examples you can give. The good rulers, you can give example of Ashoka the Great, Akbar the Great. So Yudhishthira's example you can give, Lord Rama's example you can give. So you have to broaden up your gaze. And for these questions, the questions which I have just discussed, you don't need any specialized knowledge. These questions you can answer from your daily observations, also from the knowledge that you have got from different sources of life. So, history. Similarly, your polity is there. Now, in polity classes, you guys have learned about constitution from the legal and statutory context. Okay, like what are the different articles, what they have, what are the legal interpretations of that, how Supreme Court has interpreted it, how the law has evolved over time. So legal aspect you have discussed in the polity classes. But in ethics classes, you will look at from the context of ethics. You will learn that now if you just change your angle, change your dimension, you will find that constitution is nothing but the set of ethics only. In preamble, in fundamental duties, fundamental rights, DPSPs, everywhere values are only what is mentioned. Like in preamble, justice, fraternity, equality, secularism, republic, socialist, what are they? They are nothing but value systems only. In fundamental rights also different rights, freedom of expression, right to equality and other associated rights, they are the duties, they are the obligations on the state. Similarly, DPSPs, directive principles of state policy, they are regarded as the conscience of the constitution. Conscience, you understand, like what is the role of conscience? Conscience guides you in the right direction. It shows you the light. Similarly, DPSPs also provides the goals, is also the philosophy which guides the government towards the ideal goals, like uniform civil code. In the end, though different codes are there for different religions in India, but in the end, we should aspire for a uniform civil code. So it's a conscience of our constitution, DPSPs. Your preamble represents the code of ethics because it's a list of ethics which must be followed. And fundamental rights refers to the law of the constitution because they are enforceable in the court of law. And together these three forms the constitutional morality. And this was a question which was asked by UPSC in 2019. That what is constitutional morality and how one can uphold it. The simple idea, what is constitutional morality? The idea of right and wrong which is professed and propagated by our constitution and its makers. It basically represents the philosophy of our forefathers, like the members who were part of the Constituent Assembly. And then you can write about different parts like DPSPs, fundamental rights, fundamental duties, and preamble. Got it? So for these questions, you don't need any specialized knowledge. Your knowledge of polity and history will help you out. All you need is to look them from a different context.